Hi, Jeremy Crow here. In this video I wanted to air a grievance that I have with astrology, mainstream astrology in particular, otherwise known as tropical astrology. And the main reason that I dislike tropical astrology is because it's just plain wrong. You heard me, it's wrong. And I'll explain what I mean. So just to get into it, we'll just focus on the sun sign to start with, because a lot of people don't really understand what that even means. So let's just say, because in tropical astrology they say that I'm a Capricorn. Now what that means is that my sun sign is Capricorn. Now I have a moon sign, a Mars sign, a Jupiter sign, or whatever, but supposedly the sun sign is what determines the majority of the influence on your character, your life path, all that stuff. So what does that even mean? What is a sun sign? So what that means, on the morning of my birth, at the location of my birth, when the sun rose on the horizon, it did so against the backdrop of one of the constellations of the zodiac, if you could see it. And what tropical astrology is trying to say is that on the morning of my birth, at the location of my birth, when the sun rose, it rose against the backdrop of the constellation Capricorn. But that's not the case. That's not actually true. So if you actually were to time travel back 41 and something years ago, if you were to travel back to the day of my birth and watch the sunrise, and you were able to determine the constellation of the zodiac that was on the horizon at the time, it would have been Sagittarius. So it's wrong. It's not accurate. It's scientifically inaccurate. So if you're trying to tell me that my character, my life path, various different things about me and my life, based off of where the sun was in the sky in relation to the backdrop of the stars on the day that I was born, at least get it right. You know, it wasn't against the backdrop of Capricorn, it was against the backdrop of Sagittarius. See, they're using wrong calculations that don't take into account the gradual shifting of the position of the Earth in relation to the backdrop of the stars. So it's almost a full sign wrong compared to what's actually observable in the sky. The other reason that it's wrong is because they don't even use the actual constellations of the zodiac. What they do is they have this idealized version of it. They've taken Scorpio and Ophiuchus, which you may or may not have heard of. People refer to it as the 13th zodiac sign. Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer, related to healing in the mythology, at least. So Scorpio and Ophiuchus are both relatively small signs, or relatively small constellations, and the sun doesn't stay in those two for all that long compared to most of the other ones. So what the ancients did is they said, well, actually it was ancient Babylon. They had their special numbers that basically every civilization and priesthood and spiritual system has their own numbers that they think are significant. The number 60 and the number 12 were huge in Babylon. And so what they did is like, well, you know what? If we took Scorpio and Ophiuchus and made them into just one and just said, you know what, we'll just call that Scorpio, and combine it and it'll be considered one, then it's a lot more even, and you have 12 kind of roughly even signs of the zodiac that you can divide the sky up into. And so what they did is they actually fudged it So they combined Scorpio and Ophiuchus, and then they fudged it so that it would be equal. So now you have 12 equal slices of the pie. Literally a pie in the sky. Oh, not literally, but like metaphorically, a pie in the sky is a pretty good description because it's not real. It's this idealized version with 12 equal slices, you could say. And so that's the other reason it's not real. The other reason it's wrong. Now, one thing about this is that it has developed an egregore. And what this is some people call it a thought form or an artificial entity in a sense. So what happens is when something is thought about a lot of energy, a lot of emotion, a lot of time and investment has gone into a certain concept, it develops a certain level of reality on the subtle planes, let's say. And you can refer to that as the egregore of that thought form, the kind of the spiritual reservoir. And the more energy it gets, the more influential it becomes. So there is a case to be made that even though this tropical astrology is divorced from the actual observable reality, that it still has developed a certain level of influence and validity through repeated use over the course of hundreds of years, obviously, and longer, thousands of years of use. So there is some utility there, but it's divorced from reality. There's this disconnect. And to me, that makes bad magic. So I dislike tropical astrology just because of the fact that it ignores observed reality. And I don't like to work with magic that pretends that something is real when it's not. That's my beef with it. And those are the two main reasons that I believe that it's wrong. Now you also have sidereal astrology. So this is a version, a branch, or a school of astrology that takes into account the actual observable reality of the planets in the sky against the backdrop of the fixed stars. That I have a lot more respect for because it's actually real. Like you can actually look up in the sky and do that. So, what do you think? The priests of Babylon's, the priests of ancient Mayan culture, these ancient people who used to observe the sky very carefully, and they would make meticulous recordings over generations of time. You think that they would have been content with a system that was devoid of or divorced from reality? Well, some of them would have been because some of them created that system. But look where they are now. Just kidding. So yes, there is some validity or some usefulness, I suppose you could say, to the tropical system of astrology, but it's just through building up an egregore over time that is in direct opposition to observable reality. So I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And sidereal astrology, though, that does have the 13 signs, the 13 constellations that the sun actually does move through in the course of a solar year. It does recognize that some of the signs the sun stays in longer than other signs. That one, I have a lot more respect for sidereal astrology because it actually observes reality and takes it into account and doesn't just say, oh, wow, we've been using it this way for a long time, for a very long time. Don't worry about it. It still works. That doesn't jive with me. Anyways, if you like this video, I do videos like this all the time. Check out my YouTube channel, and subscribe to the channel if you want to get notified when new videos come out. And until next time, everybody, stay lucid.